AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move into my house after he got evicted, even though she says I'm ruining her wedding. So I, 32F, bought a house about 3 years ago after saving for years. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, 3 bedrooms, small yard, and a lot of sweat equity. I worked extra jobs, skipped vacations, and basically gave up having a life to make it happen. I live alone, and I've gotten used to it. I like having things exactly how I want them, and I finally feel stable after a decade of chaos. My younger sister, Emma, 27F, has always had a bit of a chaotic life. She's the type of person who follows her heart first and deals with logistics later. She's engaged to Ben, 30M, who honestly has never impressed me much. He's had trouble keeping jobs, bounces between big ideas, and always seems to have some excuse for why things go wrong that are never his fault. But Emma loves him, so I've tried to stay polite and neutral. About a month ago, Emma called me crying because she and Ben had been evicted from their apartment. Apparently, Ben had been handling the rent, which turned out to mean he hadn't paid it for 3 months. Emma was blindsided when the landlord served them notice. She's been staying with a friend, but Ben didn't have anywhere to go. 2 days later, I got a text from Ben asking if he could crash at my place just for a few weeks while he got things sorted. I was immediately uncomfortable. I didn't want him living with me, especially since I barely tolerate him at family events. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that. He got a little snippy and said he thought I'd want to help family. Then Emma called. She begged. She said it would just be temporary, that they were already stressed from wedding planning and needed a break, and that if I helped Ben now, it would take a huge weight off their shoulders. She even tried guilt-tripping me by saying that sisters are supposed to have each other's backs. I said I understood she was in a tough spot, but my answer was still no. The next day, my mom called me. Apparently, Emma had told her I refused to help them when they were homeless. My mom said she understood it might be awkward, but that family should come first. I asked if she would take Ben in. She said no because she didn't have space. I pointed out that my house isn't a hotel either, and that I wasn't okay with someone moving in when they've proven they can't handle basic responsibilities. My mom sighed and said she was disappointed in how cold I was being. That stung, but I still said no. I offered to help Emma find another short-term rental or even lend her money for a deposit. She said no because Ben didn't want charity. Fast forward to last weekend. We had a small family get-together at my parents' place. The atmosphere was tense from the moment I arrived. Emma barely looked at me. When I finally tried to talk to her, she snapped and said, "I can't believe you'd rather see my fiancé sleeping in his car than just let him stay in your empty guest room." I told her it wasn't my responsibility to house her fiancé, and that if he'd manage his money better, he wouldn't be in this mess. That's when Ben jumped in and said, "You act like you're better than everyone just because you bought a house." I told him I wasn't acting like anything. I just wasn't interested in having a roommate, especially not someone who couldn't pay rent and disrespected me in my own home before even moving in. He got red in the face and muttered something about how some people never forget where they came from until it's convenient. After that, my dad told everyone to cool off. I left early. Later that night, Emma sent me a long message saying that if I can't support her relationship and can't be there in their time of need, maybe I shouldn't come to her wedding. She said she doesn't want negative energy around her marriage. That honestly broke my heart. I texted back saying I've always supported her, but supporting her doesn't mean I have to give up my boundaries. She left me on read. Now my parents are divided. Dad says it's my house, my rules, but Mom thinks I'm tearing the family apart over a simple favor. My aunt even called to tell me I should be the bigger person, which is hilarious considering I'm the only one offering practical help that doesn't involve moving a grown man into my home. Here's where it gets even more complicated. Emma's wedding is in 6 weeks. I'm supposed to be her maid of honor. I've been helping with decorations and had already paid for part of her bridal shower. But she's not responding to my messages about any of it. My mom hinted that Emma might ask someone else to stand beside her instead. A few of my friends say I'm absolutely right to stand firm. One of them said if I let Ben move in temporarily, he'd never leave. And honestly, I can totally see that happening. He doesn't strike me as the type to take initiative. Another friend said I might have been a little too blunt when I told them it was their own fault. and maybe that's what really upset Emma. I keep going back and forth. On one hand, I don't think anyone has the right to demand I let someone live with me, especially someone who's caused their own problems. On the other hand, Emma's my sister. We've had our share of sibling fights, but nothing this serious before. I feel guilty knowing she's hurting, but I can't shake the sense that she's enabling Ben's irresponsibility, and she wants me to enable it too. To be clear, it's not about money. I could afford to let him stay rent-free for a month or two, but it's about peace of mind. I've worked so hard for my stability, and I don't want to jeopardize it for someone else's poor decisions. I can already imagine coming home from work to find him sprawled on the couch, unemployed, making excuses about how the job market's rough. I know that sounds harsh, but it's what I genuinely believe would happen. Now my family's whispering that I'm selfish and heartless. I've even heard through my cousin that Emma is telling people I chose my house over her happiness. I don't know what to do. I want to fix things with Emma, but I'm not going to compromise my boundaries just to keep the peace. Part of me wonders if I really am being too rigid, though, if maybe I could have found a middle ground that didn't feel like caving in completely. So, am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move into my house, even temporarily, even if it means I might not be welcome at her wedding? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for kicking my brother and his fiancée out of my house right before their wedding because of what they did to my daughter. I, 38F, live with my husband, 40M, and our daughter, Emily, 15F. We have a comfortable life, and my younger brother, Ryan, 35M, has always been close to me. He's getting married to his fiancée, Claire, 33F, and the wedding was supposed to be this past weekend. Since they live across the country, Ryan asked if he and Claire could stay with us for about 2 weeks leading up to the wedding because the venue was near our city. I agreed without hesitation. He's my brother, and I was genuinely happy for him. From the moment they arrived, though, Claire made things uncomfortable. She's very aesthetic-oriented, and she constantly commented on how my house was cute but outdated, how our kitchen could use a remodel, and even suggested I rethink the color of our living room walls because guests will be taking photos here. It rubbed me the wrong way, but I let it go because I figured wedding stress makes people say odd things. The real problem started with my daughter. Emily is shy but talented. She's been taking art classes for years and has a small portfolio of sketches and digital illustrations she's proud of. She even has a corner in our living room where she displays her favorite pieces and frames. Claire noticed them and said they were adorable for a beginner, but that they clashed with her planned wedding decor theme. I didn't even understand what that meant at first. A few days later, I came home from work to find Emily in tears. She told me that Claire had taken down all her artwork from the walls and replaced them with printed mood boards and wedding decor samples. When Emily protested, Claire allegedly told her that the house is part of the wedding vibe and that her drawings made the space look childish. I was furious. I went to confront Claire and Ryan, and Claire defended herself by saying that since they were paying for the wedding photographer to use our home for pre-ceremony photos, she wanted everything to look on brand. I told her this was still our house, and she had no right to take down my daughter's artwork or redecorate anything. She rolled her eyes and said, "It's just for a week. Don't be dramatic." Ryan tried to calm me down, saying Claire was just trying to make everything perfect for their big day. I told them both that Emily's art was going back up, end of story. I could tell Claire was seething, but she reluctantly agreed. 2 days later, I left early for a work event, and when I got back, something felt off. Emily wasn't home, and her art supplies were missing. I found her upstairs crying again, saying she couldn't find her sketchbooks or her iPad, which she uses for digital art. After searching, I found everything stuffed into garbage bags in the garage. Some of her sketches were ripped, and her iPad screen had a deep scratch across it. Emily said she saw Claire taking things down again earlier, and when she begged her to stop, Claire said she was sick of looking at childish scribbles everywhere and that a real artist doesn't cry over a few doodles. I saw red. I immediately went to the guest room where they were staying and told them both to get out of my house. Claire looked shocked and said I was ruining her pre-wedding peace. Ryan begged me to calm down, saying we could talk about it after the wedding, but I told them there would be no talking. They were leaving that night. I even helped them pack their things because I was so angry I couldn't stand looking at them. Ryan called me cruel and said I was overreacting over a few pictures. Claire said I was jealous of her sense of taste. They left in a fury. The next day, my parents called me, livid. They said Ryan told them I kicked them out for no reason, right before the wedding, and that I destroyed a family event. I explained what happened with Emily, but my mom said, she's a teenager. She'll get over it. You know how sensitive kids can be. I hung up on her because I couldn't believe they were defending Claire's behavior. Ryan and Claire ended up staying at a hotel, and the wedding went ahead as planned. We weren't invited anymore. My husband and I told Emily we wouldn't go anyway because we wanted to prioritize her feelings. Since then, my family group chat has been filled with messages calling me petty, dramatic, and immature. My dad even said, "You could have handled it differently. It was 1 week." But here's the thing. My daughter hasn't picked up a pencil since that incident. Her confidence has been completely shattered. She keeps saying, maybe my art isn't good enough if Aunt Claire hated it that much. It breaks my heart because Emily used to draw every single day. I've tried reassuring her, even offering to buy her a new tablet, but she just shakes her head and says she doesn't want to see her art ruined again. Ryan texted me a few days after the wedding, saying he wanted to make peace, but that I owed Claire an apology for embarrassing her and making her cry. Apparently, Claire told everyone that I screamed at her and threw her things out, when in reality, I just packed them up and left them by the front door. When I told him about Emily's damaged art supplies and torn drawings, he said, "I'm sure it was an accident. You're blowing it out of proportion." That was the last straw for me. I blocked both of them. Now my parents are saying that family is family, and I should forgive and move on. But how do I forgive someone who bullied my child in her own home, destroyed something she loved, and then played the victim? My husband supports me completely and says I did the right thing, but I can't lie. The guilt is eating at me. Part of me wonders if I could have waited until after the wedding to confront them. Maybe I could have handled it more calmly. My family keeps saying I made a scene and ruined the wedding week. But honestly, I think Claire did that the moment she decided her wedding aesthetic was more important than a 15-year-old's feelings. Still, now that the dust has settled, I can't shake the question in my mind. Was I too harsh? Should I have just sucked it up for the sake of family peace, even if it meant letting Claire walk all over us? AITA for kicking them out? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé walk her down the aisle instead of her dad? So some context. I, 28F, am the maid of honor for my sister's wedding next month. My sister, Emma, 31F, is marrying her fiancé, Kyle, 33M. They've been together for about 4 years, and for the most part, I've liked Kyle. He's funny, outgoing, and clearly adores my sister. But lately, he's been weirdly possessive about certain things surrounding the wedding, especially when it comes to Emma's relationship with our dad. Our parents divorced when we were kids. It wasn't messy, but it wasn't friendly either. Mom got custody, Dad had visitation. Despite that, he's always been there for us, helping with homework, showing up to soccer games, even taking time off work to move Emma into her first college dorm. He's one of those quiet, dependable guys who doesn't ask for much. Emma has always been Daddy's girl. When she got engaged, the first thing she told me was that she couldn't wait for Dad to walk her down the aisle. She even cried a little while saying it. But about a month ago, she called me in tears, saying she didn't know what to do because Kyle had told her he wasn't comfortable with her dad walking her down the aisle. When I asked why, she said Kyle felt that it symbolizes giving her away and that since her dad wasn't there for her emotionally during her teenage years, it felt wrong. Which what? He was there. Kyle's version of emotionally supportive apparently means calling every day or being overly involved. Our dad's not like that. He's calm and private, but he's always shown up when it matters. I told her she didn't have to justify it, and that it was her wedding. If she wanted Dad to walk her down, that should be the end of it. She agreed at first, but a few days later she called again saying she and Kyle had compromised. Kyle would walk her halfway down the aisle, then Dad would take over the rest. Dad wasn't thrilled, but said if that's what Emma wanted, he'd do it. I thought that was that. But then last weekend, at the final dress fitting, things exploded. We were all there: Mom, Dad, me, Emma, and Kyle. The mood was good until the coordinator started asking about the ceremony order. Kyle jumped in before Emma could say anything and said, "Oh, I'll be walking her down the aisle." Everyone kind of froze. The coordinator asked, "Just you?" And he said yes, because it feels more right since I'm the one who's really been there for her these last few years. Dad didn't say anything, just kind of nodded and walked out of the room. Emma looked stunned, but didn't speak up. I followed Dad outside, and he just said, "It's fine. It's her day." But I could tell it hurt. This is a man who never shows emotion, and his hands were shaking. When I went back inside, I lost it a bit. I told Kyle that he was being controlling and disrespectful. I said walking someone down the aisle is symbolic. It's not about ownership. It's about love and support. And he was taking something deeply meaningful away from both Emma and Dad. Kyle got defensive and said I was projecting old-fashioned ideas of patriarchy. Emma started crying, and Mom tried to calm everyone down. I left because I didn't want to say something worse. Later that night, Emma called me and said I had embarrassed her and made things worse. She said Kyle felt attacked and was thinking of canceling the rehearsal dinner until I apologized. I told her I wasn't apologizing for defending Dad, and if Kyle's ego is that fragile, maybe she should think twice before marrying him. She hung up on me. Now the family's split. Mom says I should have kept quiet and let Emma handle it herself. Dad keeps saying he's fine and doesn't want drama. My aunt and cousins are on my side, saying Kyle is a walking red flag and Emma's blind to it. I tried reaching out again, but Emma texted me saying she's tired of everyone making Kyle out to be the villain, and that she's removing me from the wedding party if I can't be supportive. I told her I loved her, but I couldn't support her letting her fiancé rewrite her relationship with our father. She hasn't responded since. A few nights ago, Dad came by my apartment to drop off some boxes of old photos. I asked if he was okay. He just smiled and said, "I've already walked her through every important moment in her life. She doesn't need me to do it one more time." That broke me. Now I'm wondering if I overstepped. Maybe I should have stayed out of it and just let Emma make her choices. It's her wedding, not mine. But it feels wrong watching her let someone take something so meaningful away just to keep the peace. What really messes with me is that Kyle wasn't always like this. He used to encourage her to visit Dad, to call him more. Now it's like he's trying to erase him. He's even been suggesting they move to another state for a fresh start after the wedding. I can't shake the feeling that this is more than just a wedding disagreement, that this is the start of something controlling and isolating. But maybe that's not my place to say. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it because I'm protective. I don't know. Every time I replay in my head, I get angry all over again. I keep imagining my sister walking down the aisle without Dad beside her, and it just feels wrong. But if I keep pushing, I'll lose her completely. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let this go and calling out my sister's fiancé for trying to replace her dad on her wedding day?